Okay, just doing a sound test here, and we seem to be going live on live stream. This will be the third Keshe Health workshop, third in this series. There was a couple of other health workshops previous, but this is the third in this series, along with the Knowledge Seeker workshops. And we'll be live with Dr. Elia Kostova and Mr. Keshe from the Spaceship Institute, as well as some of the other knowledge seekers from the Spaceship Institute. I think Marco and John and maybe even Armin will show, I'm not sure. And so, without further ado, a little bit more ado, Elia is going to be talking about the skull and the bones of the face in particular today, and we'll be relating that to the emotional part of the brain as well. Okay, Elia, are you there at the Spaceship Institute?
Yeah, hello to everyone. Good morning, good evening, whatever to all the world from Spaceship Institute. So today we start with the third health workshop, and the subject is the skull bones, the face bones, and how they're related with the emotional part of the brain. For that purpose, we will go like a review of the all skull bones and the embryology development of the neurosystem, because it's important to follow the embryology development of the neurosystem and see in what state and in which part just starts to develop the emotional part of the brain. So we started with the first picture. Please, Rick, could you show on the live stream? It's number 0 in your list. It's not that. The number 0. The face picture is just picture for a live stream announce. Find the 0 picture, number 0. They are just numbered like a pictures. It's not that. Yeah, okay, but you're supposed to make little small. In live stream, it's so big, it's not that visible. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, the eyes, yeah, this is the 0. Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. They're under the pictures numbers. Okay, so this is the first one. With these pictures, I want to show you different layers of the head. You see how the head is also have a layering, and we start with the skin, then go the derma, then the muscles, and then the bones of the skull, and then inside of the bones you will place your brain and all the structure of your head. Then the picture first one, please. We delay. Can you hear us? Now the next one. First. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is one. Okay, yeah, this is the first one. Okay. So on that picture, you are able to see the bones of the skull. Actually, the skull separates in two parts. This is the facial parts and neurological parts. And it depends what kind of function have a skull. Because of that, it separates to the two parts. The facial bones, they are really up to 14, and their function is just to form the face and to keep safe all the structure which is behind the bones. The bones of the face is the bones of your jaws. This is the lower joint, what is the mandibula. The upper joint is the maxilla. Then you go to the zygomatic joints, which form your bottom of your eyes orbit. In the middle of the face are the bones of your nose, and the structure inside of that bones they are formed separation of your nose. It's important because of the how much air and canalize the amount of the air will pass from environment inside of your system. Then you have the bones which formed your eyes orbit. Everything of that belongs to your face. Other bones, which is much bigger and much wide, they belongs to your neuro skull because they are formed the cavity which is the place in your brain. So the next picture, please, is the number 2. It's visible your skull inside, in like you look on site. Yeah, could you please, Rick, pause the picture number 2? Ah, okay, because for us it's just we stay in the first one, the live stream, just delay. Okay, so yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so for the second picture, you are able to see the skull on site, and there are all the bones of your neuroskull, where your brain just plays it. So the first one is formed your forehead. This is the frontal bone. Then goes to your partial bone, which is the bigger and white one. And then you go to your occipital bone. On side, this is the temple is made the side formation of the skull. This is the temporal bone. Is like that. Inside of the temporal bone is the acoustic bones which made your ears, inner ears. So on that place between the temporal bones, the zygomatic bones, and the mandibula, you form the joint. What you just keep in mind this joint because it's important of explanation of Mr. Keshe after that. That joint which is formed between, I just repeat, the temporal bone, the zygomatic bone, and mandibula, they formed the joint connection between these all bones, and this joint is so important of relation between your physical and emotional part of the brain. Just keep in mind this joint. Okay, then just 1 second. The next picture is the same visible. Then could you please, Rick, put the number 4? The number 4 just give you view is like on the bottom of your skull. And from the bottom of your skull, you're able to see in the middle one hole from where just go through the spinal cord through all your spine. Okay, so this is the bottom of your skull. Again, just find out on the picture is written mandibular fossa. This is the hole where the lower joint just make the connection with temporally bone and the zygomatic bone. This is some kind of hole. This is for purpose made it there. and related with the joint, what I mentioned you in the previous picture. So that area, it's important, again I say, to make a connection between the emotional part of the brain and the physical part of the brain. Just keep in mind again. Okay, I just give you the clues about the skull. It's not that anatomically lecture. I just give you the point what is the important of explanation of Mr. Keshe after that. Okay, then we go to the number 5 picture. Number 5 picture represented you development, embryology development of nervous system. So, we are ready or not? Because, okay. Okay, thank you. So, the embryology development of the nervous system started in the 3rd week of embryo development in the womb. It's important that neurosystem formed from ectoderm layer of 3 embryology layers. They are endoderm, ectoderm, mesoderm. So, in the 3rd week of embryology development in the womb, from ectoderm starts to form the neural plate. This is the outside layer, new one, above ectoderm. And it's important for you that knowledge to know because ectoderm is base of your skin. So above your skin, may say that, you formed your nervous system. And then you'll be get at what is the relation and what that important it is. So you see on the first part of that picture, 80 days. So 80 days you have formation of the neural plate above of ectoderm. And the 20 days on this neural layering, you have some kind of evagination in the middle. That evagination formed all the main channel of your brain. From that evagination, after weeks, starts to form all the ventriculars in your brain, and the end of this evagination goes through spinal cord down through all your spine. So in the first part of the picture, you see how is formed your brain, central nervous system. And the bottom part of that picture, which is mentioned on the 20 days, you see how starts to form your spinal cord. Okay, we go to the 22nd day. The 22nd day, you see again on your part where is placed the central nervous system, how they starts to form 2 ventricles. In the middle, in the green color, it's showing the evagination. Then above, between ectoderm and this neural layer, you see formation of the main channel. But how you see is between neural layer and ectoderm. It's again connection between your skin and your nervous system. Okay, then we go for 24 days. We see how developed the central neural system, and is so similar on the beginning to the nervous system of the fish. If you are whatever saw the nervous system of the fish, the beginning of the human nervous system in the womb is completely similar, like a formation on that on the fish. Okay, then we go to the next picture. This is number 6. We are ready? Okay. Yeah, okay. Just if I just check, it's not slowed down for me. Okay, so this picture what they show you, in the fourth week of your embryonal development, from this neural layer start the formation of neural tube, and this neural tube separated to the four part. You see in pink, this is your forebrain with yellow. This is your midbrain with green. This is your hindbrain. And with blue, this is your spinal cord. Then, when you develop during the weeks, all these different parts, they starts to be developed to different kind of function. So, from the green part, origin the myoencephalon, that is the medulla of your brain, and the metencephalon, this is the pons and cerebellum. Cerebellum is your small brain, which is take care about the equilibrium of your body on a space. Okay, now you see the border between the yellow and the green part. Just remember this border. It is so important. So the yellow part is formation of mesencephalon. This is the middle brain. And the pink, just formation of your central neural system. This is the diencephalon and telencephalon. Okay, then we go to the next picture. This is the number 7. Number 7. Okay, thank you. So from in the picture number 7, you see again the view of development of the neural system. It's important here to mention that the nervous system on the beginning, can you see how the tube is little bit bending? So the head of the tube is little bit go forward, and then on the top is your yellow part, and then go, this is the red part. This is the shape of embryo. So from the beginning, all the neural tube just place it in all the body of the embryo. So all the body of the embryo is represented your neural system. Okay, then the next one you see 4 week of the embryo. Again is represented different part of your brain. And when you go to the last one part of that picture, you see where is the border here on that color between yellow and between blue. So how you see from the blue part origin the thalamus, hypothalamus, and epithalamus. This is your diencephalon in your brain. So remember the border between your middle brain, what is the mesencephalon, and diencephalon. From there originate the thalamus, hypothalamus, and epithalamus. So now go to the lateral view, and you see where is the border between the blue part. So the blue part consists also the eyes, also your lower part of your face, your neck in front, and your neck behind. And then comes the middle brain. And here is, again, it's important to mention the border between the yellow part, this is your mesencephalon, middle brain, and the blue part, what is your diencephalon. So up to the blue part, you have the gray part. This is your cerebellum, your brain. Okay, then we go to the next picture. This is number 8. Okay, in the number 8, in chart, gives you different origin of different part of the brain. So go to the point of the orange one, where is your diencephalon. Diencephalon gives you optic vesicle, epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. What is the function of that? Function is vision, and then you get the pineal gland, and then you get relay center for optic and auditory neurons, and then you get regulation of temperature, sleep, and breathing regulation. Okay, so the border, what we mentioned, it is between, on that chart, in your orange part and green part. What is your border between diencephalon and mesencephalon, your middle brain? So what give you middle brain? Middle brain give you fiber tract between anterior and posterior brain, optic lobes, and tectum. And then go to the next picture. It's number 9. Its chart will give you all the verses of the embryology to the adult part of the brain. Just to have it, and if you need to make some check after the workshop, just to know each part of the embryology of nervous system, what part gives you in the adult brain. Okay, then we go to the next picture, number 10. Okay, thank you. So these pictures give you like a spiral, all the evolution of the embryo development of the brain to the adult age. So you see how the shape of the embryology gives you different state, is the same state in different kind of animals. So our neural system represent in his embryo evolution all the neural systems of different kind of animals, from the fish to the human. And finally we get our adult shape. But important in this picture just to notice that how the embryo is just bending the head part of the neural tube forward. It's so important. And remember that point. Okay, then we go to the next picture, number 11. Okay, thank you. These pictures give you the picture of embryo. I put these pictures to show you how the embryo, the head of the embryo, just is bending forward, and how we spoke in the previous picture, just mention the area who includes the eyes, ear, in the primary mouth and primary nose. So also include the small part from the neck, which is the on your face part, and the neck, which is your back part. Actually, the neck here in the embryo is on the line of your ears. So just mention that area, because that area in the development after that you see is related with your emotional brain, because belongs to your diencephalon, if you remember from previous pictures, and diencephalon gives you thalamus, epithalamus, and hypothalamus. So that area who includes eyes, nose, mouth, ears, part of your neck, which is here like a part of your head, but actually is neck because the head is bended forward, and part of your neck, which is the on your face side. This is your part which is develop your emotional brain, and it is completely different than the other parts of your neural system. Okay, then we go to the 12th page, 12th picture. This is anatomically picture of brain in adult. Can you hear us? Okay, thank you. So now this is the picture of the brain of the adult. In the embryo, everything what you see in the pink color, if you remember, was like a bending forward. In adult, is just suited normal in horizontal line, but in embryo, it is bending forward. Just imagine little all this pink area, what is your cerebrum bending forward, and then between the yellow, what is your cerebellum, your small brain, will appear, this is the blue area, what is in this picture in the middle. But if you bending cerebrum forward, this area will be between yellow and the pink area, cerebrum. Just to imagine what we spoke from the previous picture. So this blue area, how you see, this is your diencephalon, what we spoke before, and consists the hypothalamus, thalamus, and epithalamus. And during the development, from that area just appear pituitary gland. This is your hypophyse. Okay. So from that picture, it's important to remember the thalamus and hypothalamus, and like anatomically named, corpus callosum. This is the bridge which is separate the cerebrum from diencephalon, what is in that case thalamus and hypothalamus. It's important because there goes so many neural tracks. This is like a highway of the neural impulse. Okay, then we go to the next picture. It's number 3rd. Okay, thank you. In that picture, you see your head up to the neck, just cut it in the middle through the nose. Just find out in your brain the number 5 is in the middle of all the brain, number 5. Even it is colored like a brown point, number 5 in the middle. This is your thalamus. Okay. And then see the number 3. This is your corpus callosum. This corpus callosum is a border between your cerebrum and your diencephalon. In the middle, what is the thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus. Then, if you make the horizontal line from the number 5 to reach the skull bones, you will get 1 point. And if you make the line between number 5, then go through the F, like a letter, from a corpus callosum, it's a tree, separate to the A, B, F. So connect the number 5 to F, like a letter, and then connect the skull bones. And then you get 1 point. Just remember the point. It's nearly written on this picture number 2 if you see in front of your small brain. But actually, this is the line between number 5, your thalamus, letter F from number 3, which is your corpus callosum, and then go straight to the skull bones. So remember that point. It's important for the next explanations. Okay, then we go for the next picture. It's a 14th. It's give you like a 3D view of your head. Okay, thank you. So in that picture, you see in the middle of your brain one yellow point. This is in the middle, directly in the middle. And this is yellow point inside of the white capsule. How you see, this is your corpus callosum, what we spoke before. Yellow point. This yellow point is your thalamus. How you see, he just pending in your skull, pending in the middle of your brain, like in 0 point. It's so important. And yeah, in the middle, in the capsule of the corpus callosum, just make like a bridge. In the middle is the yellow subject. This is your thalamus. So just remember the name thalamus is still like in 0 gravity in your head, inside in the middle of your brain, completely in center. Okay, then we go to the next picture. Is number 15. Okay, thank you. So that pictures give you view on your skull from your back. If you remember, I just asked you to make the line between thalamus straight to the bones. Actually, on your backside of your body, of your head, this point is between, if you see here, is just colored 2 brown spots. So between these 2 brown spots actually is where that line reach the skull bones. And that is the place where you are able to manipulate with your emotional part of your brain, which is your thalamus. So that is the point outside of the brain, outside of your head, like a remote control to your thalamus. So actually thalamus is your emotional part of the brain. If you want to get in touch with that, outside of the head, outside of the skull, on your back of your head, that part is your place where you are able to connect with your emotional part of the brain. Actually, is when if you touch your head, it is formed some kind of curve in your bones, in the middle. If you touch your neck, go just up in the middle, and finally you reach it one curve on your bones. There is that part. Okay, the next picture. This is number 16. So number 16 give you view of all neural tracts, highways of the neural signals from the brain and from the spinal cord to all organs to your body. How you see it is so complicated organizing direction of all the neurological impulse. They have so many diversions, they have so many regulations, and not only in the brain, but also local in the nerves. This is really complicated organizing of the neural system, because neural system supposed to control everything on your body. And the first is your nervous system, then is going to your endocrinal system. So endocrinal system is like a small, how to say, support after your neural system. They're so closely connected to each other. Also, they are from embryology. They come from so close embryology layering. And it is for purpose also. Just I show you that picture just to have in mind how complicated is organizing everything. And if you want to be connected with some organ, if you manipulate the tract from the beginning in pons or spinal cord or medulla, the beginning of the tracts is when you see some red spots like a bottom on a spinal cord. If you start to manipulate the impulse from that part, you see how the impulse spreads through all the highways of the nervous system to the different organs. So for only one root point, you are able to control and to change the function of the different internal organs of the different parts of your body. Only for one point in your spinal cord, in your medulla, or in your cerebrum. The last part, which one?
This about these points.
That. So Mr. Keshe asked me to repeat about the points. So the tracks in anatomy means the highway of the neural signals. They are formed from the cerebrum, go through all the pons, medulla, and then go to the spinal cords, and then reach different kind of level of spinal cords depending what kind of signal they carry on. The red spot, what you see in your spinal cord and pons, this is the where the track is stopped, or this is the more sensitive part of this track of the highway of some neurological signal. The neurological signal carry the information for all the nucleus from your cerebrum. So, if you want to manipulate some internal organ, some nucleo in your cerebrum, or some part of your body, you are able just to connect with these red spots. This is the control point for your neurological system. It is important if you want to make some device to control the functions on your body. That's why I just show you that picture, just to see if you connect with the red spot where the signal go on. If you're following the colors, you are able to see which one organ you reach. If you put the device to the first point red, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, or whatever, just depends what you want to do. In that way, it's so easy to reach each cells all over the body, because the signal just goes from the spinal cord or from the pons through all the body, but finally you reach each cells. Depends of function of these cells. Okay, then the next picture is the 17th. Okay, thank you. These pictures give you view of 12 nerves where they come from your brain. And you see the main organs or part of the body where the signals goes. So, for the purpose of our explanation, it's important to see trigeminal nerve. This is number 5, and the number 7, which is the facial nerve. They're important of explanation after that of Mr. Keshe. So you have a map, just find the number 5 and the number 7. Okay. Because there are two types of nerves come through your face directly, and they pass the area of the joint what I mentioned you on the beginning, formed from mandibula, from zygomatic bone, and from temporal bone, the joint of mandibula. This is your main joint between upper and lower jaw. These two nerves, 5 and 7, just pass this area. So also this area, if you remember, belongs to your emotional part of your brain. It means if you applicate something on that part, and if you want to reach the brain, you are able to reach the brain from that part through these two nerves, trigeminum number 5 and facialis number 7. So that is the logic. Because these joints belongs to the emotional part of the brain, if you remember how I explained it to you from embryology, how the head of the embryo just is bending forward, and because of that, how all these parts form the emotional part of the brain. And these two nerves just pass this area, and because of that, you are able to transform the signal from that area to the brain back through these two nerves, number 5, trigeminus, and number 7, facialis. Okay. Next picture, number 8, is the same like previous, just I give it you to have more view and to able to understand easily what we speak about. I will be not explain because it is the same just to have it. I also post on the live stream so you're able to download it. Just to have like a chart in front of you when you think of some device or something. Okay, the next one is 19th. It's again the chart of the 12 brain nerves, like a map just to see. And in the 19 pictures is given to you how the 5 nerves reach different point of the skull. So this different point is your way to reach back the brain from the skull to transmit the signal to the brain. That's why I just give it to you that picture. Number 5, trigeminus. Just see different point of your skull is like temporary part, zygomatic part, mandibular part near the joint. This is the points where you are able to apply some device and then through this nerve to reach back the brain. Okay, the next picture is number 20. Yeah, okay, thank you. I give you this picture just to see, this is anatomically pictures, just to see how they really looks like these nerves. So in front of you, this is your cerebrum, this is your medulla, your pons, your cerebellum, spinal cord. Then you see how teeny they are and how they spread to so small branches. And then they goes through the body. Just to have real view what they looks like. Okay, then the second verse. So the last one is the picture of nervus trigeminus, the 5-1 nerve, and it gives you how it goes from the pons through the bones on your face, and which one the points reach to the skull. So again, this is the points which you are able to transform the signal back to your brain. And we'll keep it these pictures through all the explanation of Mr. Keshe, because you will be need just to imagine what he will be speak about. Okay, from anatomically view, it is from my side. If you have some questions about the anatomy and physiology, you are able to ask me, and then Mr. Keshe will be follow with his explanation. The pineal gland is your hypophyse. Have the question from the live stream. The function of the hypophyse is the regulation of all the other endocrine glands in your body. So in the endocrinology system, the first regulation starts from your hypothalamus. Then the signals goes to your hypophyse. The hypophyse split to the two parts, anterior and posterior part, with different functions, but more function of regulation comes from your anterior part, and hypophyse regulate the function of your thyroid, of your kidney glands, of your pancreas, of your genitalia, endocrine glands, in the way of backup connection. It means is the hormone of the glands in your body is in the lower level, give the thalamus.
No, it's breaking up on Skype.
We seem to be having some trouble with the sound on Skype. Seems to be disappearing. Let's see if we can fix that.
Maybe internet again or something. Because I can hear you perfect. I can hear you perfect. So they just drop off, seems like.
Can you hear me? Yes, okay. What happened, I think, as we discussed it before, Rick, I think it's the same process. We're getting hacked again like last week. So if we have a problem, we have a contingency, we go on the second line. I pass the headphone to Daniel.
Okay, I will repeat about the function of hypophyse because I think you didn't hear that or you hear.
You probably should repeat that, Elia, just so we make sure we got it.
Okay, so the regulation started for hypothalamus, then comes hypophyse, and then all the others endocrine glands. The main regulation is from hypothalamus. Hypothalamus regulate the hypophyse, and hypophyse regulate other endocrine glands. They have... Rick, could you please switch off your video? Okay. And the endocrine glands of your body is your thyroid glands, your thymus, your kidney glands, pancreas, and then the glands which belong to your genital area. And the connection between the peripheral endocrinal glands and hypophyse is the connection of the back-up connection. It means if the hormones in your peripheral glands go less in the blood. So hypophyse directly is informed that she has to increase the regulation hormone. She increases the regulation hormone, and then the glands starts to produce more hormones of itself. if something happened with hypophyse and regulation just disappear from her side, hypothalamus starts to produce more the regulation hormones from itself. Then the hypophyse starts to increase her hormones, and then the peripheral glands. Yeah, this is the function of hypophyse. So the first is hypothalamus, then hypophyse, and then the all other peripheral endocrinal glands. Which one of these regulate temperature directly? Directly regulate thalamus. Also for the temperature you have a nucleus, which there compare the temperature of the body and the environment. The signal format in that nucleus, then inform the thalamus, and then they make the temperature of the body. I just read the question in the live stream. If someone else have the questions. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you, Elia.
Okay. Some other questions?
I guess your explanations must have been good because nobody has any questions.
I got a
I
question.
hope
With
so. I
Wait
just
a
want
minute.
to be
Wait a minute.
useful for you. You know, it's just.
I hear Ludmil coming through here.
Yeah, it's
I
usually a
asked for a
nasty
thalamus.
question.
Thalamus can regulate the recycled plasma. What is the meaning of recycled plasma? Danielle Murphy. Just could you please write more precisely the questions because I not get the idea. Thalamus then regulate recycled plasma.
We talk about it.
Okay, Mr. Keshe said he will be answered. Kerwell Vries, what about the pain? What about the pain? What do you mean?
Where do we feel it?
Pain, but pain have so many causes.
Where do we feel it in the brain?
In the brain?
Yeah.
In emotional part?
No, that's a physical. Where do we feel the pain physically in our body, in the brain? If I hurt you, if I pinch you,
yeah.
where do you feel it? You don't feel it in your emotion. You feel it in your brain. Which part of the brain is responsible for pain?
They have different kind of nucleus.
That's what it's asking.
Okay, different kind of nucleus you have in cerebrum for that. It's depending what kind of pain you have and from what. Headache is like a migraine, and the classification of migraine is like one book, and you may cause from the restriction of your artery or dislocation of your spine, of if the hormone is not in the proper level, also because of some psychology state. So the headache is like a symptom. Is so complicated to answer like this. You have to find the root of headache, and then it's able to answer. Because really classification of the migraine is huge because of different kind of cause. Headache is just result. It's not the cause. What creates fever? It depends what okay. What creates fever? Fever is completely how to say, really again is the result, because if you have a cancer, for example, that cancer after the metabolism in the cells, out of the cells like side products goes some kind of molecules, and that kind of molecules irritate the center of the temperature. If you have infection, for example, and then the bone marrow produce the lymphocyte. When the lymphocyte goes to the bacteria, virus, whatever, they eat them, and for that eating, and again started the assimilational process in cells, they produce again the side molecules which cause the temperature because of this assimilational process of lymphocyte of the bacteria, virus, some other microbe, whatever. So the temperature is again the symptom, is not a cause, regarding of the cause. Hypothermia is the, you mean hypothermia, induced hypothermia, or from the body, just body go to hypothermia itself? Is the question from live stream from Augie.
Elia, we only have about a half hour left
Yeah.
in the show, so maybe we should segue into how Mr. Keshe would like to interpret some of these questions.
To Mr. Keshe. Okay, and thank you for attention. If you have some other question, you know the email, just write me in the healthkiev@gmail.com. So I do my best to answer to everyone. Thank you. I will give you to the Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much, Elia. That was excellent.
Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening. Thank you very much, Elia. Elia has explained in a medical term what was to be disclosed new. We went through the things yesterday, and it's perfectly explained. Some of the things which Elia has explained is unknown in the world of medicine and in biology. And one of the points which is very important from the bone structure is that the borderline between the emotional part of the body and the physical part of the body is the jaw of the man. Anything above the upper jaw, part of the skull, is built, developed over billions of years to protect the emotional part, which this is what is the most important part of the whole creation. So what happens? The emotional part, which she showed you in number 5, is the essence of the whole being of existence of the man. So whatever you do, whatever you eat, you run, you live, you fight to live, is to keep this section in a working condition. The rest of all the parts of the brain are literally built over time to service and to keep this operation in the part in section 5 intact. As earlier explained to you, the emotional part is the connection between the soul of the man and the man, the physical man. What you saw as section 3A in the diagram is the separation between the emotional part and the physical part, which is the rest of the brain. So, in fact, what the body has done over millions of years has kept the control of the emotional part in the hand of the section 5. Because then it makes sure that it exists. The rest of the bone structure in the head, in the upper neck, is set to protect this point. If you look at it, it sits right in the center. it is because the further protection is built for itself, the more chances it has to survive, doesn't matter what happened to the rest of the body. So your jaw belongs to your physical part because it moves to chew, it moves to open up a hole that food can go to nourish the physical part, the stomach, to be able to support the physical part of the brain, which is the outer part. Anything above your upper jaw is what literally the emotional part needs to operate and respond to. The nose, the position of the eyes and the ear. Through the sound, through the smell, through the sight, the body keeps the emotional part always informed of the environment, of what's happening around it, and how it has to protect to stay alive. Then when you see the tongue is the separation between the physical and emotional. That's why the senses on your tongue are connected to the senses in your nose. The smell, which sits just above just between the two eyes. So if you put the rest of the structure of the body, all the bones and everything else below aside, the control room sits in this part, in the skull, in the upper skull. The same thing is what we call the pituitary gland. This is again part of the emotional part. If you look at it, it is connected directly next to it. Because the brain even has given autonomy to the physical part of the brain to do the rest of the thing for itself. But just in case if something goes wrong, it still needs connection and control because it's part of the slavery which exchanged. The physical part is the leech. If you look at it, it's actually leeches sitting on top of the emotional part. So, as Elia explained, this gland is directly connected to the rest of the glands. As I've said in the previous talks, the glands are substations, subsidiaries of the brain. And now you see it in the picture, you understand exactly how the body has done. The brain, the emotional part, has protected itself in a case, in a spherical case, which is shape of the control room. It's very much like the reactors. It penetrates from the center to the outer boundaries, which is your brain. And the further you go in the brain, the most remote part of the physical body receive the information. If you look at the position of number 5, which is the emotional part, the first pictures was shown is directly connected to the eye's retina. The first split comes with the retina, which means I want to keep an eye on everything. I want to be aware of what's going on around me. Then, from the above, the separation between the emotional and the physical, the further out you go, there is less need for existence. If it's not there, I can still exist. Look above where it sits, the two halves of the brain, the upper, immediately above the separation line, is a control of your upper arms and upper legs. As you go to the boundary outside to the near the skull, you have the control to the lower arms and lower legs. And as you go further down sideways, you have the controls for the fingers. So the brain in the emotional part has decided what the physical part gonna go and look, and so it has spread its position and the shape of the bone structure to allow what it needs to do. So your emotional part dictates the shape, the size, the cavities of your physical bone of the brain. And to that extent, that goes back to what we talked last time. Then it decides how it's going to feed itself, how it's going to look after itself. And that is why, for example, when you get excited emotionally, your breathing goes up and down. You breathe harder, you breathe slower, because your breathing, your eyes on your side is part of the control system of the emotional part, which is the soul of the man connected to. So it is very easy to see how the rest can be and will be literally non-usable in deeper space. This is, as we always say, Keshe Foundation's space technology, and what we do is to understand how we cannot necessarily transport the man into a space as totality. But if we can, in the upcoming time it will be done, you can take this part of the brain, which is exactly your thalamus, with you, and you'll find a new environment anywhere in the space, and you can keep it energized and alive that it can function. The man will find a new environment to reproduce the shape of the physical part to fit that environment. So when the time comes, man in deeper space finds new locations, like you go from, let's say, from India to China, you start eating the food and the culture and the customs of Chinese, or you go to South America, the same. When you can take this part of the brain of the man into deeper space where you don't need to carry the whole physicality, then man will adapt his physicality to the environment which is allowed to grow. Necessarily in the new position, you don't need such a big skull because the energy received is totally different. So the brain will be different. The bone structure will be different. If you are in a liquid state, but it gives you the same kind of field, you don't need arms and legs. You might not need the fins the way we are used to it. We use the proportional in gravity, and you need a smaller body. Then the pinal, thalamus will decide what the physicality will look like in that position. This goes back to what I said in some of the lectures before. The one who talk about the no-house boat are the people who came with the no-house boat, but they did not come in physicality of the man. This is the separation. This is where the body, the skull, is the most important part of the whole structure. So what does this mean? It means even if you separate the rest of the body without allowing what it needs as the source of its own protection, the blood, that it can supply the same kind of energy as I explained, that energy, no oxygen never crosses the lung, then you will see you have all the necessary conversion systems in the bones of the skull to support life and the existence of this point, the emotional part. But at the same time, we discussed this before in other workshops regarding the transfer. If you look at the neurosystems which Elia has shown, you see a connection between the bone in the jaw and the bone which comes from the face, through the brain, through the emotional part. This point, this nerve system, is one of the most important nerve systems that if the world of medicine understands the working of it, there should be no man paralyzed and no man should be in coma. You can't transfer. We've done this This is not theoretical. It's been done, it's been shown, it's been recorded. But we do not use it present in the Keshe
Sorry,
process
Mr. Keshe, we're losing the
because
audio.
of the specific reason in developing.
We're losing the audio. We missed
Can
the
you
part.
hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, but the audio was cutting out there for a bit. It seemed like there was a bandwidth problem or something.
Somebody is loading something on.
Yes.
I can see it. Somebody. We are getting hacked again like last time. We are not loading anything. It depends who's loading what. Is anybody loading?
Don't you have two people on the same same line there, perhaps?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yes, somebody is loading. Somebody is loading to keep the lines busy.
Right. Okay.
Is it?
We'll try to carry on.
Can we do something? Can everybody move out of the Skype? Keep two lines on the Skype that we cannot be hacked, and everybody goes to the live stream or go to meetings. We are getting hacked. I can see it on the system. It's getting loaded.
Yeah, I was thinking it might be at your end with the other line that's being used, perhaps the other computer. But maybe we could. We don't have GoToMeeting tonight right now, so
today. Okay, so no problem.
Well,
Are we still getting cut off in pieces?
Let's carry on and try it. It comes and goes. Sometimes it's clear.
Yeah, I can see it. We are getting hacked. I see the circles. They are working to load up. They're loading the lineup. They're sitting on the server. I can see it through Elia's system that it's getting loaded. Nobody's loaded any pictures on. We're getting loaded. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you clearly now. So, well, let's.
But if we get cut off, John, is your line open? We go on the John's line. We do it that way. Let them stay busy with it. Okay. Just if you want to keep the Keshe Foundation line off, yeah. Can you hear me? No, not yet. Hello?
It doesn't sound.
Can you hear me now?
It's starting to get more clear.
Okay, we changed line. I could see. Silent. Silent.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay.
Speak yourself. Just wait a second, please, if you can hear us.
No, it's on.
Yeah, you put the speakers. Oh.
It sounds good there now. It's starting to come through.
Rick, do you hear us now?
Yeah. Can you try it again, please?
Rick, can you hear me?
It's very weak, but yes. I can turn it up on my audio if I need to. Now, excuse me, now it's not coming through good. I can barely hear you.
Hello.
Now I can hear you clearly, yes.
There's a headset.
That's it.
You can hear the headset. This is what you speak.
Headset is used.
Hello.
Yes, that's
Can
very
you hear
clear.
us?
Really good, yes.
It's the maximum. to see if he can be heard.
They hear us, but we don't hear them.
Okay, put one yours on, please. Put your speaker on. See, the speaker is volume too short. Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Yes, okay, we are sorted now. We are back. We had to switch. I could see we getting hacked like last week. They tried to load it up to stop. Can I have the pen, please? The pen just... Okay, can we go ahead?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Well, what's happening? We are hearing you again. Here we are. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it sounds clear, Mr. Keshe.
Hello?
Yep.
Where are we now?
It's good, except there's a bit of an echo there on my
hold on,
voice.
hold on. What's happening now? Hold on. Stop there. No. Okay, we are back on.
Okay. Are you good to go?
We are good to go. We had to do some change. We're getting used to this now.
Very good.
So it's not,
Thank you.
okay. Thank you very much for those who try to hack. We got another solution if you want to know. You try it, I'll show you. Be careful, you have to buy a new computer and a new server.
We have already new.
We already have a new because she's sitting next to us. She had to buy one. Yeah.
That's right.
We buy one. Elia had to buy a new one. There is no problem. Okay, so we go on to the position of. We go from where didn't you hear us?
You were discussing the parts of the brain with the emotional parts in the center, and we were looking at that image that's on the live stream. You were discussing the upper part of the brain. And
did you understand the separation between the jaw, the physical part, and
and there goes the sound. The sound just went again. Hello, Spaceship Institute. Can't hear you there, Mr. Keshe.
Yeah. Can you hear us?
I can hear you now, but it cut out there. I couldn't hear it all.
Okay, it says here, somebody says that...
connection of the body control.
Okay.
Daniel says, you reach soul connection of the body control.
Okay, we try to retract back. Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go back on, try to wherever we stopped as far as I can remember, and then you can add. What happened, I explained that there is a connection. The connection of in the jaw is the connection between of the physical part of the body. And it has no connection with the emotional part of the body, which is the upper part of the head or upper jaw. If the physicians understand this, and as I said, we have recording of this, we have videoed it, you can change paralysis of any part of the body as long as there is no nerve cut, especially in cases like coma. You can transfer the working part of the brain, of the physical part of the brain, to the nerves in the lower jaw. Once you establish the nerve system, because it's controlled through the connection with the physical part of the body, then you find the position for it back in the physical part of the brain once you establish the working of this. I'll explain to you what this means. In the coma case, I've explained this before. Once we brought the girl out of the coma, we realized that she's gone paralyzed on the left-hand side of the body. We transferred the working of the left-hand side and the right-hand side, to the two sides of the jaw, to the nerves on the jaw. Once we thought the left part, which is the right side of the jaw, that it has to copy what is happening on the right side of the jaw, which is the left side of the right side of the body. Then, once it was learned, we transferred the whole thing back to the physical part of the body, and the person comes out of the paralysis. This is like when you have a neuroshocks. But if you have a cut off the nerves, it's totally different principle, different thing. And this happens, one of the problems when people go in a wheelchair, the whole system shuts down at the point that you cannot interact with it to reconnect in a way, even though the information goes through the spinal cord. So the position and the structure of the skull is literally a reactor, and if you look at the, again, not a call, the number 5 as Elias showed it, it's exactly placed from birth in the condition, in the place where emotional part can function, and at the same time the connection between the emotional part, the ears, the eyes, and what you need to know about the condition of the survival and guaranteeing the survival of the section 5 is done by the brain itself through the facilities which is made for itself. Ears, to be aware of what is around, that it cannot endanger its existence, holds directly to the nearest part of it. Eyes, the holes that the light, the information in a digital form for it can be absorbed, that it can protect, survive itself. Nose and the sense of smell, to be able to understand what is going on, which is not physically, dimensionally detectable, which is the smell. A smell is three-dimensional gas. Breathe in is a source of energy. Yeah, okay. What was the last thing you heard?
You were discussing about the nose and smell, and then just the last sentence that you said was
Okay.
it was started to break up, and about the three-dimensional gas aspect.
Yeah. Okay. So what the gas smell is a three-dimensional crystal structure of the gas. That's why it spreads and it covers the environment, exactly like gas. It covers the environment it's given. That's why you can smell anything when you go in a room. So the smell is important to the life, the survival of the emotional part of the brain. Because if you're in a fire, you cannot smell it, and your back is to it. The life, the survival of the Thomas is finished. You die because you cannot smell what is the condition. The reason that at the same time the tongue is connected to the sense of the smell is because what you taste guarantees should be, even though it's to do with physical part. If you eat a poison, you don't taste it, you don't taste the wrong food, then it can endanger the survival of the thymus. So it has connected part the taste to the smell, again as a line of assurity guarantee that it stays alive itself. In fact, if you look at the rest of the skeleton, the whole structure on the top can exist without it. We see ribs being replaced with titanium. We see bones in different part of the body being replaced with everything else. But because they have no purpose for the structure except protecting what guarantees the life. In so many ways, most of the capacity of the lung, which guarantees the energy through the red blood cells for the survival of the thymus, can be done by the bone structure in the head, on the upper end part of the body itself. It does not need to do the conversion. As I always say in all the talks, what you eat is 20% of the total energy the body needs. 80% is absorbed from the environment. And the shape and the structure of the brain, especially in man, is being fixed in a way that centralizes all the energies which come from any direction right to the position where thalamus is. It has guaranteed its survival without the existence of the rest of the arms and the legs if it needs to be. That's why in some tumors, some brain cancers, they can take the whole top of the brain out, but the person is still alive and can function and judge, have feelings, have emotions, even though they cannot move their physical body. So if you look at the whole structure, the bone structure of the skull, it's very much, it's exactly, depending on its tips and holes. As somebody said, they could make a nuclear, what do you call it, gravitational reactor from a coconut. It's a coconut. And the center of it is thalamus. So all the fields, it's like the way in your reactors, you put in a nano-coated pin in the middle to centralize all the fields of your gases that it cannot go anywhere. This is your thalamus. This is the essence of the creation. The rest is protection. The way your head is structured, the way your bone structure of your face or your upper part of your head is, dictates how much energy in which direction is absorbed by which part of thalamus, which then that dictates your behavior in respect to positioning your souls, in respect to your physicality. So you will see people with certain features of the brain, they have the same characteristics because the same kind of radiation is absorbed from the environment which is focused to the center. It is very much like the lenses you take and you put it in the direction of the sun and you can focus it to burn the paper. But the brain does the whole operation through the skull itself. If this part could absorb energy itself, it would have solved out the problem with the calcium. Then man would have never had legs and arms, but it has. It's in the process of development. It has learned how to do it, and that's why we need the arms and legs to move around to guarantee the survival of the physical part by eating, because the emotional part receives and has programmed itself in an easier way to receive its own energy for its survival through the skull bone. So it comes to a point that you have a reactor, it has a central core, it absorbs energy and it releases energy, And as a proton has an electron for its balance, the balance for the emotional part, which is the existence in the matter form, is the soul of the man, which stays outside the boundary of the physical life. That's why you can destroy the physical life, but the soul stays alive, existence. Can you hear us? Yes, it's fine, it's not us. So now we understand the whole structure of the creation of the bone structure in the past 3 sessions we had, and the reason for it. All the bone structures below the neck is for the physicality. Somewhere in the process of the evolution, man,
There goes the sound again. Something must have come in there. There's some communications or something. I think there might be too many people trying to communicate at the Spaceship Institute, perhaps.
hello? You can
Okay,
hear us?
yeah, it's coming back now.
There is a huge question mark now that we have developed new technologies understanding the process of the creation. There is a huge question mark that did we ever come out of the water? The way it's been explained up to now in evolution. The whole structure brings a lot of things into question. How, in what process we have actually evolved to protect this emotional part, and how much to protect it has led us to find new ways of finding food and air. In the future programs, when we do more health and we understand more, as now that in the video of the CO2 kit, we have shown the parallel with between the CO2 kit and the leaf of the plants. We will explain more and more in detail that you don't breathe, as we have said before, one type of oxygen. You breathe cocktail of the oxygens of different energy, magnetic, gravitational level. And all this, the composition is in fact not for the emotional part, but for the physical part. So in totality, the whole bone structure is for the physical part, not for the emotional part. And so what happens when you have the emotional part? The instant that your emotional part is created, even in the pictures which Elia showed, you see that the protection side, the operational control system of the physical part is spread on the top, and the emotional part, the thalamus, goes right in the center to protect itself in all conditions. There is a lot of questions in respect to physicality handicaps due to the lack of oxygen and the position of the emotional part of the body, of the being. All these can be rectified. Now that we understand the process of the emotional. Can you hear me now? Hello?
There, it's starting to come back again. Okay.
Okay, we are getting hacked heavily. We are on different lines. They are trying very best to hack us. It's no problem. So as I said, if you have people like with when they are born with a lack of oxygen, you'll find out emotionally they are perfect. If there is any imperfection in the emotional part, the physical part dies. If there is anything wrong with the emotional part of the brain, do not forget that the emotional part of the brain, in parts, in connections with the physical part, carries part of the calcium which comes through the bone structure of the skull itself. And at the same time, if you look at where the emotional part, the thalamus sits, and you just go straight up into the physical part of the brain, when the emotions cannot be handled, the amount of energy received for not solving, but in a way digesting, in a way to absorb the energies which are emotional part, when these are released in one go, this is when you get a brain hemorrhage, because the energy is like a volcanic eruption from the emotional part erupts, and as it erupts, it goes upwards. It damages the upper arm, the upper leg, the arms, the lower arms, and the fingers, and that's why you see paralysis with all the strokes, brain hemorrhage. Is the energy in the emotional part is so vast, it's so huge, that when it's released as in one go, can literally destroy, not to destroy, dissolve or interconnect the plasmas of the rest of the plasmas within the brain structure and the physical part. And you get all these kind of things with a stroke. That's why when you have a stroke case, you always try to solve the emotion, and then you find out through it, the physical part will solve in a matter of time. Sound is bad. We don't better now. So the whole structure goes back to one thing. You have a reactor, you call the skull, and this reactor has a center point which all the energies from it, according to what the soul decides in conjunction with the emotional part, dictates the structure of the skull. Then you create the man around it in the long term as the man grows and matures. The shortness, the height, the shape of the face, the shape of the fingers, the shape of the arm, the shape of the bones, the toes, all decided by the emotional part in respect to position of the soul in its living part. When we run reactors, we show you this in physicality, how reactors interact. You find happy reactors, you find angry reactors. I've said that before, we've seen its operation. So, in fact, once the thalamus is, the first seed of thalamus is set, it creates its own sphere and an energy point, and this energy point has to connect with what is parallel for existence, which is what we call the soul of the man. And the operation and the position that soul is going to have in the environment of where it is as its own, what I call universe of the souls, then dictates the shape of the man. Because the destiny is set in interaction. As much as I always said, you pray for the soul, through the soul you affect the physicality of the man. The same is done by other souls to one soul that been received by the thalamus, dictates what physicality the man going to have. In so many ways, it's the RNA and the DNA. The soul is the RNA part of the structure of the man, and the thalamus is the DNA. The rest of the physicality is how this thing can exist that the other one can be connected to. So at that point, in that way, then the brain decides how to structure, or the thalamus decides how to structure the physicality of the structure of the brain in the skull that receives the energies that it needs to operate for what is being agreed or what is being set as an energy level in the plasma in the center. So that's why with a facial, once you see a man or a person, you can say the condition of the mind of the man. The way he shakes hand, the way he stands up on his bone structure. Sounds good. Sounds good. So, can you hear us? Hello? Good now. This sounds good now. So, now you understand. What happens, we are recording this separately here all the time. We can send you the recording of it because the recording can stay. We have a microphone recording. We record everything we say. In the future, if there is any problem with the sounds, we always from the first talks all the time, even when we started the teaching here, we have made the audio recording of all the talks. So if you have a problem ever with the audio, we can you can ask Marco. Marco usually downloads them into a backup disk, and we make 2 or 3 copies of it in different banks. That's if anything happens, we hold them. You can just override it over the other one. So this is what I was explaining before you told me you're cut off. That the structure of the operation of the soul decides the structure operation of the thalamus once the thalamus is created in its position. And then the physicality comes into operation. And then it's decided how. This is what you call in the language, we call it as a destiny. The destiny of the man is set by the souls which have no need but are aware of what is being set for the body of the man. And then you go accordingly, the physicality is created to fit that. But you need new energies, new plasmatic gravitational magnetic fields to create the new dimensions for that. That's why you have a male and a female. Because male comes with his DNA on the physical side and RNA on the emotional side, memory bank. The same, the two, when you mix the two sounds together, you get a new sound. So you get a new DNA structure plus whatever it's been recorded on the RNA. And then that RNA is the same position as the physicality becomes the DNA, and the soul of the man becomes the RNA for the recorded collective what it needs. But the soul does not need physicality to exist because it's detached from physicality, but it's connected to it. It's like when you have 2 magnets. You can do whatever you like with one magnet. The other one will still exist and you still have a line of connection. But if you turn one, the other one can turn too. So, in so many ways, the structure, the bone structure of the man in totality is 100%, without a shadow of a doubt, is decided by thalamus. And the rest, if you have accidents or you get a physical mishaps in the operation of the birth or whatever, deficiencies or whatever, those are the physical side, which you have to find out how you can reach it to change it. This is what I explain a lot of time. This is what it looks like. The sound is, we are getting cut off. We are getting heavy. Have you got the line? Sound okay. So we try to find another operation to cover the sound in the coming days. There's no problem. So now we understand why and how, in so many ways, each one of us is different, and even why from different parts of the planet we come up with different features. Why all the Chinese look the same and all the Europeans look the same. In time when we go to space, we'll have the same problem. People from Earth will have 10 fingers and 10 toes, and people from other positions, they don't need toes and feet, but they roll like a ball. But they still can talk, they can communicate, not talking, but communicate, and show their feelings. So physicality of the man is more or less even the whole bone structure. The bone structure is the main frame. Once you make the frame, then you have to move it. Then the muscles are made to fit how to move this bone structure to be able to be in a position to absorb energy through food or whatever, that the physicality can exist. If you look in center of in the whole structure of the brain, thalamus hardly has any blood vessels coming to it. Most of the blood vessels sitting on the outer boundary of the structure of the physical part of the brain, because it receives its energy to exist, to change, to do, and its structure is more or less with a few differences, is homogeneous. This is very much like the gans which is shown on the table here. So through the holes which is made to hear the sound of its environment, through the eyes which is made to see, at least to see what's going, it doesn't fall down the ditch. At the same time, through the nose to be able to smell what the environment is, that it can save itself. Soul has made that part totally under his own control, the thalamus. And the rest of the physicality part, the physical part, your sounds, your whatever you hear, and wherever is the sound is heard or whatever, this is just for the physicality that they can be repaired if it is need be. Any questions?
Thank you for all that, Mr. Keshe. That was enlightening. I think Sandor is might have a question here. He's writing in the chat. He says, what is the operation of the cerebellum?
Nothing to do with the operation of the bone structure and the thalamus. It's auxiliary. All the other parts within the brain are all auxiliaries. They have been put in there to do certain jobs. I think that was explained by earlier. When you have all these muscles, when you have all these tissues, when you have all the organs, and all of them have physical conditions to be protected, to be changed, to be reprocessed, to have a lifespan, you need a huge brain, huge computer. And that's where it comes into operation. That's got nothing. This is all has to do with physical part of the body. This physical part needs temperature control. It needs sensation to feel how it can protect itself. Don't forget, there is the the skin of the man is just as it regenerates itself, and the way it does as a nano layer, all needs controlling continuously, and this is all done by the server. Everything you see which is changeable, the recycling process is controlled by this section. That's why it's so big. Because the skin has to be always the same color, the same thickness, the same position, distance from the bone, and all that for every single cell on the body. It's not random. Nothing is random. Everything is controlled. And you need such a huge computer to control such a huge organization. Every drop of liquid in your body, every drop of every single cell of your stomach, your heart, your all the organs, they just don't get created just because they happen to be there. They are controlled, they are replaced, they are repaired, and this is all done by that part of the brain. That's got to do with the physical part. It's got nothing to do with the emotional part.
Mr. Keshe, I had a question regarding the I had a question regarding the thymus and the environment specifically around the thymus gland.
Thalamus. Yeah. What's the
With
classification? What does calcification? Yeah, nothing. It just happened for certain reasons, because you have very little amount of it in thalamus. What is okay? Yeah, the question is from Jack H. What is the calcification of thalamus? Okay, very easy. You have a brain, you have a bone structure, which is exactly like the structure of the one we talked about, the fibra in the other bone structures. As the material comes in, as the bone structure is used from the brain, from the liquids, this carries with itself its own immune system and is connected to the calcium of the brain or calcium of the skull, and this, as it goes through the body, it reaches the thalamus too. There is something very interesting you got to realize. The brain, this is what I've taught somewhere to some medical people a few months ago. The structure of the brain starts from the bone structure in. So the cell which is on the outer boundary, does, if you take an MRI, you understand exactly, you see the softness, it looks like a soft part of the top of the brain. On the outer boundaries of the brain, when you do a MRI, you see it. That part, that cell, which is, let's say, created on the direction of the, let's say, your upper arm, it goes in through to become part of the thalamus. So as it's passing, let's say, the upper arm section of the physical part, it makes connections and links with that part. That when it becomes part of the thalamus, the energy, the gravitational field, magnetical field which creates, matches to the environment which has gone through. So this becomes the connection between what the emotional part wants to the part which physically exists. That, let's say, emotionally you want to cuddle your child. To cuddle the child, you need to raise your arm or to stick your hands out. The information comes from as the cell moves from the outer boundary of the brain, that cell, that part of the physicality of the brain which has gone through the arm section of your body, when it reaches thalamus, becomes part of it, because then it's homogeneous. It's very much like a bone marrow. It carries everything, becomes one. That becomes the link between your emotional part and your upper arm. So then it's easy, it's matching. It's like you make a magnet for wood, you make magnet for plastic, because it's the same length. So as the cells come through the outer section of the brain into the center of the brain to become part of the thalamus, they pass different part of the physicality part of the brain. And then when they reach the thalamus to become part of itself, to become one, then they have a connection line with where they passed. And that's how the connection is made. You want the arm to be stretched out, it stretches out. You want to cry, you cry, because the nerve system goes through. You got to see why the inner ears are placed so much in the inside of the brain where they are. Everything has a reason in a conjunction in what the emotional part can do. So in that process, as we said in the last talk, as the lymph go through the bone structure and as they become part of the immune system, they all carry calcium because they go through the calcium. And it's the same thing with the brain struck with the skull of the man. The outer as the skull, that produces materials to keep the shape of the skull, to keep the bones of the skull. These calciums with these cells which have become part of the body gradually sink in and become part of it, because then they protect it from what it is and they become a connection between the physicality and the emotional part. And then that's where you find it's the same process, nothing changes. But then you work in the direction of the plasma, you don't need any vein. That's why we don't see blood. You can cut a brain, there is no need, because brain, especially in the emotional part, works only through plasma transfer information, what it receives and what it reduces, and in what level it sends gravitational magnetic fields out for the rest of the physicality to interaction with, and then becomes the information. This is why with ILS we have fairly good understanding of it, we're understanding more and more. Because when emotionally you're rejected, emotionally you fail twice, you don't want to exist. What do? You send the information to physical part, that's it, you're shutting down. It's your job to start the process. Then the physical part, through regeneration of the cells, what it has to be done, which section to be disconnected, sets up the scene for the order which has come from the boss. There is something very important which is is in the book number 9. It's called The Structure of the Soul of the Man, which applies to all the souls in the universe. There are positions where the soul decides to end the physicality because of what its soul is aware in the dimension, in interactions with the other souls. So that determines, the soul determines the end of a life in physical condition. This is beyond the understanding of the man, but in so many ways, when the soul detaches itself from physicality, the physicality has to end up its life. This is something which a man has not understood because it's beyond his intelligence. So as much as you can decide to kill yourself physically, or the body decides through degeneration to degenerate, to die, the soul has the same access. So it's not because of, but in knowing why is to happen through the interaction of the souls with the other souls. This is what I was explaining to knowledge seekers recently. I've never seen somebody doesn't seen your uncle. To me, your uncle is a stranger, but to you is an uncle. It's a telephone number connection. And this telephone number connection has a direct access to everything. It's like a SOS line. So when the soul decides in some cases to end up the life, soul has the same access as the physicality decides to jump off a cliff. It's for the separation of what is to happen, and the soul does not want to be involved in it. Next question.
How can this wish be reduced?
The death wish to be reversed, you have to do what we do with ILS and in MS cases, as we're learning more and more. Let me explain to you something very clear. Even though we have all the knowledge, we have to understand the working of the physicality of the man. And translating the full knowledge back is the hardest part, because man keeps on changing, evolves. It's not that not having the knowledge, but it's how to triggering the knowledge in this physicality of the man on this planet. The death wish cannot be changed by going to the emotional, but understanding why the emotional has created that wish and overcoming by physical motion to show that the physical part does not accept the shutdown, the death. Then you can have the same effect in reverse on the thalamus. What does this mean? We understand the structure, what order has come in from the brain in the emotional part to shut down because of a failure, because of the lack of whatever. Because if you speak to anybody who has a ILS, you'll find out they have a wish, death wish, or a failure wish, which do not expect their expectation. Why do we see so much huge number of sports people with ILS nowadays? A lot of actresses, a lot of what we talked before, because they do not reach the expectation what they were expecting emotionally. So to them it's not worth living to carry the physicality. What you got to do is to keep the physicality going without the interaction of the code from the emotional part. But at the same time, in a way, cuddling and kissing the emotional part, you want to live, I want to be here. You're two partners. Don't forget the physical part is the leech part. So when you push the physicality, you can, with your system, especially which we developed, override or create a balanced condition in the emotional part, and at the same time, revitalize the connections with the physical part. We've seen this very recently in a ILS case, where other parts of the physical part are still working because of the support it receives from the system, and by accident or whatever, the systems were not used for one part of the body, and we see that part of body is slowly going back to the same as was before we intervened. Because through the systems we developed, we can reach the emotional part to hold it at bay till one day it decides, okay, I want to live now, I take over them, it was a wrong order. And then at the same time you support the interaction of the physical part. This is one of the reasons with ILS people, till I don't find a reason to live, it's a waste of time to try, because whatever I do, they override, they evolve. They change the position to reach, to complete what they wish. It's like if you try to stop somebody jumping up a cliff, you save them from the bridge, they go and jump up another bridge. Because you cannot stop that process. And this is the same with Alice. The death wish, the death wish is not just physical. The death wish you look at, the death wish comes in with physicality. With sexual physicality, we see a lot of it. A lot of doctors don't understand. It's another kind of death wish, which emotionally you detach yourself from a man or a woman. So physically, because you emotionally detach yourself, physically the body does not show any interaction or reaction to that person. You go to another woman, to another man, and you find you're as good as you were 18 years old in loving, caring, and the rest. It's another. The emotional suicide is very much directed and controlled by the person, not through the emotional part. That's why we see people. I studied this for some time. How come so many people in England, where I lived for years, are still women on their own? Because they loved somebody during the war and he died in the war. I couldn't understand. I lived in this environment because it was very strange feeling to me that we see so many old women on their own. You don't see that much with the men, but you see it with the women. And when you talk to them, they speak about the love they had with the man, or he was married and they went to the war and died 40 years ago. The war is already over for 60 years, but they're still there. Because physically they exist, but emotionally they have disconnected themselves from the feeling in so many ways, what I call suicidal death of the emotions in respect to loving. So suicide is not just in one version. Suicide has different names in different versions. Next question. Outside. If you break your leg, you put a reactor outside the leg. You can't put it inside. Then you go, how are you going to get it out?
Okay, this John Williams calculate how do you make a reactor and how do you put in the leg or into the leg by surgery?
No, you can. You can do it. What's the use? If you've broken a leg, why do you put it in? Take it out. You always put it outside.
Outside on the broken place.
On the broken, but you have to know what you do, because if you don't do it the right way, it doesn't come out the right way.
Just ask the
Yes.
John Williams question.
Yeah, I think they heard it. We answered it. Okay. Any other question, or we call it a day?
Well, we are up over 2 hours now. We're going to keep the health workshops to 2 hours, so perhaps it is time.
Thank you very much for your time, and we'll leave it to next Friday for the what do you call it, the fourth health lectures by Elia. The point is that let me explain something. It was beautiful to sit here and listen to Elia, because she carried in a very scientific way. As she's a doctor, she can connect it. And in a way, when she speaks, she spoke to start to speak. We go to the beginning of the session, speaking about the emotional part and everything else, because we discussed it yesterday. To her, she understands, she sees as a medical doctor. And it must have been a lot of shock to a lot of people hearing her explaining this is the emotional part, because this is unknown. So this is the way that our teaching is going to be. We teach the experts that they can translate the knowledge in the language of the others in their level to understand. And we start doing more and more of this as we gather more, time to do these things. So these kind of interactions with the expert, with the scientist, will increase more. We announce very soon a new development in the same direction too. In the space and agricultural side. And I thank Elia for such a wonderful presentation and explanation, and all the pictures. She made everything very clear the way I tried to explain to her in past couple of days. And then this is how the teaching will go. Doctors will teach doctors because they understand the essence of it and what it is. And then we add to it. And thank you very much, Rick, and the rest in the background for working to make these things happen.
And so next week you'll carry on from the structure of the face.
We don't know. Elia will decide.
Okay, it'll be a mystery
until... I'm a puppet in the box. They take me out, and then when they put me back in the box. She decides what comes out of the box.
Right. Okay, so well, I'm sure that'll come up on the live stream feed.
The same time.
Oh, you're breaking up there. That's I can't hear what you're saying. Try it again, please. Sorry, Mr. Keshe. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. No problem.
It's breaking up.
Hello.
Okay, there's back again.
I can hear you.
It's back again.
This is like NASA getting lost in space.
Yeah, I
said it's like NASA, we're getting lost in the space.
I feel like we're talking to Mars here.
There is, by the way, something which is irrelevant to this, but I congratulate the Indians in achieving a great breakthrough in being able to enter Mars' atmosphere in the past 48 hours. As I was watching it, it's taken them 9 months to get there, and I was telling my son, we'll be there in about less than a few minutes, very soon, when the man understands. So we have to see if there are real Martians on the Mars. I thank you very much for all the time, and I give the headphone to Elia to finish the session. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
So thank you for my side also. Thank you for attention, question, and the support from the Rick and Vince and all the stage guys. Because of them, everything is going really good with the live stream and announcement. And I just want to ask all the public who is listening the workshop to spread the information that for the workshop and to the support, the tech team who, because of them, everything is happen. We need a donation to the to Keshe Foundation on the link which you are able to find out on the site of the Keshe Foundation. Thank you, Rich and Vince, a lot for your effort to make the live stream and everything on the internet happen, and all other guys which I don't know, they support the technical stuff of the Keshe Foundation. Thank you a lot, and appreciate you if you send me emails directly to the email and not just write me in different places like Facebook or the forum or some private messages, because I'm not able to find out all of them. Thank you very much to everyone.
Could you give us that email address again there, Elia?
healthkiev and gmail.com. healthkiev@gmail.com.
Okay, healthkf@gmail.com. Thank you.
Welcome. Yes, thank you very much to everyone, and see you for the next Friday. We'll be all together again. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Elia and Mr. Keshe and others. All right, that ends the third Keshe Health Workshop.
Thank you. Bye-bye from us.